All right, we are back. We are back with another episode of B.R.O. I am here, Sixx, chilling, back in the city. And to my left, I got the forever.
What's up? It's Jason E. Star, STAAR. You know it.
To the right, we got
the old man with the young soul, was still young, Coach Coop.
Here we go.
And we are back at it.
Let me talk about, I didn't read the briefing. Jason got on me a little before this. Oh, you got this color coded?
Yo, I'm trying to
nice.
Happens when...
Yo, there's levels now. There's levels.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. 2 out of 3.
Shout out to A. Well, for the record, I told him that swag over there that he got.
Yo.
That briefing came from...
Look, we're not giving nobody no money. We're not giving nobody no money.
You got to use that AI in that way. Look at that thing there.
Yo.
Oh, man, it's going to be a seamless show.
Yo, this is going to be perfect. So today's episode is called The Body Keeps the Score.
The body keeps the score.
We know, don't we know?
Okay.
Yeah. So we really wanted to touch in off the energy that we had last time. And I felt like that conversation unlocked a lot.
I've been drinking. Can you remind me what the last time?
We talked about emotional intelligence. We talked about performative love.
Yeah.
How do we show up? What does it mean? Jason talked about shadow work.
Yeah.
We talked about how to be present and like respect the I and like be like conscious about checking in with yourself in emotional situations. Jason gave us some knowledge just about like asking the real questions of why you present and why are you showing up and are you conscious of how you're showing up. And so I took that and then y'all got on me about like my terrible communication skills with the thumbs up.
The thumbs up. Y'all remember the thumbs up? I love you. Cheers.
Thank you.
And I was reflecting and I was like, asking myself the why, thinking about like how I show up and being present in how I'm showing up and like what's the mechanism behind that. And then it got me to this idea that, you know, the body keeps the score. Like some of the things that we are moving through and reacting to are inherently are the things that we've been carrying for a long time.
Yeah.
And so like I'm thinking consciously, but I'm moving, you know, subconsciously. I'm moving unconsciously in a lot of my relationships. So that wanted me to ask this question about that. So like when we think about this and how we process this, my question to us is, you know, where do you hold your stress? As a man, where do you hold your stress?
So whenever I hear that question, I think physical and mental. So is it both and?
It's both and.
So where do I hold my stress physically? I hold my stress physically in my stomach. My stress, my core is my stomach, and my stress goes directly there. So whenever I'm overwhelmed or anything like that, my cortisol levels shoot to the roof. I instantly either bloat or eat unhealthy. My stress and my mental, I think I feel I don't know if I've ever paid attention to it. What I will say is that I'll overthink. I'll process the thought, the experience more than I need to healthily. Like I'm always processing because, and I think that this is like a bad trait to have because I do this work so much. I'm always trying to reframe my way out of things instead of sometimes feeling it and being okay with not knowing. My brain and my mind, because I've been doing this work, I work with young men, I work with staff members. My Achilles heel is that I don't know how to shut my reframing off. And now the reframe is like an overdrive, if that makes sense. So sometimes it's okay for you to sit in your mental shit and your emotional stuff. I mean, obviously not too long, but for me, it's very difficult to do it. Because our work is so practical and I've been doing it so long, I hold my stress and my reframing, if that makes sense.
Okay. And what about you?
And that's weird, but that's what happens.
What about you, Jay?
So for me, anything stress related, everything just shoots north, if that makes any sense. So definitely, you know, neck, nostrils, you know, my nostrils start flaring up like crazy, behind the eyes. But definitely, yeah, I know that all that shoots up. And so there could be tension and kind of physical response anywhere for me from the neck up.
And then I'll throw mine in, I think, in my brow. I'm very like a deep, heavy brow kind of person. So when I'm stressed, I'm like frowny face, like, yo, just mashed all up. And then I think the same thing too. I'm like a shoulder, like head, shoulder, neck guy. I'll just, it get tight all up in here. So like, that's somewhere where I gotta, like, I know when I just feel like disjointed, I'm just constantly like trying to like relax myself, where I'm like, I got a heavy brow. I know like I'm not processing. I'm in the mode of processing, or I'm carrying a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because I think it's important for us to like be aware of our bodies like that.
Yeah.
Like and I think we've been talking about this the whole time, is like this idea of super soldiers and this idea of being warriors and this idea of not being weak. You don't pay attention to the body and we still function. The body still work. I'm still getting up, but we're not maintaining it. You know what I'm saying? We're just hoping that it doesn't fall apart.
Yeah.
And so not paying attention to those little signs of where we even, if we are aware enough to know where we hold our stress, where we're holding that tension, that is a sign that we got to check in on ourselves. So that's why I wanted to ask the question.
Yeah, I think also too, once you hear the signs, it's like doing something about it. We often kind of like put those things off, right? Because we're tackling the day, or it's like, again, and I'm gonna speak for myself. It's like, oh, I'm aware of it, you know. So because I have the awareness of it, it's just like magically gonna go away, and it won't. So you have to definitely put the work in to find that decompression space, because it's critical. Because, you know, the one thing about the emotions is like that shit could be chronic and it could be silent. You know, like, and that is a scary space, man, because people start either flipping out or your body starts to deteriorate in ways that, you know, you're just like, what is going on? Like, why is this hurting? Or why is that hurting? Literally because the way that we carry our stress, especially for Black men, fucking dropping dead
Left and right.
Yeah, yo.
Well, you mentioned, you know, you use the term cortisol, and you know, for the
I said cortisol.
Cortisol. No, you said cortisol.
Yeah,
cortisol. Cortisol. No, but just for, you know, anyone who might not be familiar with that, right? But that's, you know, just a hormone associated with stress, and we're not medical professionals, and so it's a lot out there about the ways in which like individual or, you know, our bodies physically respond to that particular hormone. But we often talk about increased levels of cortisol associated with like the stress. So just want to make sure we level set for everybody and what we're talking about. But it kind of creates that connection between there is something happening, you know, in your body. Your body is sending you signals, maybe is a good way to think about it. And we've talked a lot about awareness and how a lot of what we try to do is, what is that information, and then what can I do with it? And then I think that, you know, stress and the information that your body gives you in response to how we experience stress is very, very, very important. To understanding how to like take care of ourselves, and of course how we want to show up like in the world.
Yeah, I always commend people, not to go down a rabbit hole. I'm sorry, Sixx, but you triggered something in me. I always commend people who could like work out, like when they stressed out. Like they just got that a bit, like they have to work. I wish I had that. I wish that was like my response to what I'm feeling. I think I envy that. Like when I'm stressed, I don't want to lift nothing. I don't want to, you know, like. But, you know, I know people who, when they stress, they can go run a fucking marathon.
Well, every behavior or response has the potential to be an unhealthy one.
Unhealthy,
right? Yeah,
you run into all sort of your body.
Right.
Yeah, so got to be a balance. There has to be a balance.
Yeah.
And I think, but I think what's the important part of it too is that how you take in it, how you process it, but even I think how you distinguish the things that are triggering you is important.
Yeah.
Because we've been always told to be like, man, let that go. Or if you bring up something, man, that's soft as fuck. Like we get criticized for bringing up things that hurt us to people we are close to. And then that becomes a thing that we start to subconsciously believe like, all right, you know what? Maybe I am tripping about this. And it's those little cuts that add up to make up like the big wounds that we carry. And I'm telling you, like, I really was I sat in my room. That's my thing. I get done. I decompress. I got this like wing chip chair, go all the way up Dracula style, leather. And I sit back in it and I was with the cat. And I was really thinking, just on my Dr. Evil shit, just like.
Cats let you pet them?
Yeah, she sit right in my lap. Her name is Pie, a beautiful cat. Check out her Instagram. But I was sitting in the chair and I was really thinking about like, when did I become so what caused me to become nonchalant in the ways that I respond to things when it comes to my emotional trauma of relationships. Like, because I was like, damn, you're right. Like, you really gave me some insight about like, yo, I don't know how to give a reassurance. And I was like, why don't I know how to do like, why does that feel like so much work for me? And then I was like, you got to go back to childhood. You got to. I had to take the little yellow brick road all the way back. And then I started to think about that. And then processing that, I came across this, this theory by the doctor, Dr. Belsler von der Kessler.
Oh,
yeah, the guy. I'm butchering the name, but we will take care of that in edits. But this idea that trauma is not just a mental event, it's stored in the body.
Yeah.
It's stress, it's fear, it's unresolved pain. It manifests itself in the physical and it shapes how we move through the world. And I was like, damn, what was the moment for me that I started to keep the score on what I felt was reassuring? How did I start responding to that? And it just brought me into this space where it's like, my mom was a very like up in the morning, gone, didn't say I love you a lot, but her actions were her things. And so like, she was like, we don't have the space to talk a lot. So I don't have the space to reassure you that I love you, but here's the product of all my love is in the safety that I provide.
Yeah.
And I came to that conclusion after our talk was like, damn, I took on my mother's love language. And that I don't have the space.
Lack thereof. Whatever you felt like she wasn't given.
Yeah. And like my reassurance is in the space in which I provide and not in the words that I say. And so I started to really go down this path of this, like, how are we carrying things on us as men that were inflicted on us by other people?
No, 100%. I think that's indicative to every living soul on this planet. And you can't shake that, right? Like there's no getting over it. The experiences that we have are what they were. Some people have arrived to the understanding of where they come from. So when you were sitting on the chair, and, with the cat, and you kind of like went down that psychological subconscious journey, that is what you were supposed to do. But I think that to the point of the awareness of it, it's the only way it comes from the surface. It has to go to the subconscious, because sometimes what's on the surface is your lie or your distortion, as you will, in what we call cognitive behavior therapy. So you being able to walk that path and realize, hey, mama had to work. She was moving around. So whenever I looked around and I needed the validation, I didn't have a voice to validate that inner voice that was probably second guessing himself as a child. And then because you wasn't getting it, the body and the mind self-preserves. Now, it's not necessarily a healthy thing, but in the self-preservation, he's like, well, all I got is me. F it. You know what I mean? Like, and then we start to take on those beliefs that all you have is you. So when you never had the capacity, well, not you, but just people you start to lose capacity for other people. And then when someone is showing up and needing that level of validation because you didn't get it, that inner boy is like, well, welcome to the team, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, call me when you get better. You know, I'm dealing with my subconscious shit. So it's very important for us to have the ability to, the beauty is that you sat in it and you thought, right? So reflection, all of those things is what's needed. But taking that walk backwards sometimes mentally is the most healthiest thing that you can do. Now, I'm hoping that when you get to that point, you realize that whatever mama was going through and her ability to work was also her way of trying to use the tools that she had to show you that she loved you. And that's how we got to reframe. Mm-hmm. Because if you stay in a space where you stay mad at her for what she couldn't provide you without getting context of her story, then it still stays a cycle.
And go ahead.
Well, I wanted to take that thought maybe one step further, which is something that's been very helpful for me in my like healing journey, if you will, is to your, going back to that point. And yeah, like, understanding mom and like what she was going through and how that impacted the nature of the relationship you had there. Talking to that 8-year-old or 9-year-old or 10-year-old and saying like the desire to be validated, the desire to hear, I love you, you're doing a good job, the desire to have a maybe more emotionally deep relationship with a parent is okay.
Yes.
And it was okay that you needed that. You don't hate mama because she didn't provide it. But that little boy still needed it. And then he grew up into this man, and that I can go back and tell that little boy, like, that was okay. You needed that. You didn't get it then. And it resulted in these things, but that's okay too, because now this person is saying that was okay. And we made it through that onto the other side. For me, that's been very, and it can be a little bit like when the first time someone suggested it, I was like, this is crazy. Like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, because I'm a very practical kind of what's in front of me kind of person. Like, but it was really it wasn't just in my head. It was like I literally sat across and was like, okay. And it really did help kind of release that and then open me up to figuring out, okay, then now all that like guilt and shame and stuff, sort of, I'm releasing that. So now I can sort of understand, okay, how do I want to show up, or how would that feel now that, I've had that experience and like grown through that, and it provides maybe a degree of clarity that helps you move through that. Before was a lot more ambiguous, or you just didn't know like the root of why you were reacting the way you were reacting, or why you approach something the way you approach it, or why you respond to something the way you respond to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is like that's self-validation, right? Like the adult you is validating the little you.
Yeah.
Right. So like, who better to validate you than you? Right. Like, let the world be second. Like, be your own hype man. You always say that, but like, to your point, Jason, that's like spot on. Go back and be unapologetic at the fact that, that was my experience.
And I think, and I open that up. And I think what we are trying to do here, and every view watching, thank y'all for keeping up with us. But every conversation about us is a conversation about we and the collective we. And to know that, our journey as people of color, as Black men in this place, all have like similarities to a point, like single mother households, dealing with coming from, the hood, if you want to call it whatever you want, but coming from, the low social economical points where we come from, where there's always these subtle sacrifices that are being made in our lives that we have normalized and been like, well, that's just how it is when you come from where we come from. And you hear that's just how it is. It be like that. One of them catchphrases that's gonna be on the tube store somewhere. It be like that, but it being like that has its ramifications.
Yeah,
and if we are not honest with it, and we don't sit with the uncomfortableness of it, of being like, you know what, I can judge a portion of that relationship, whether it's mother, father, auntie, aunt, whoever we love. I can judge it, not condemn it, but judge it for what it honestly was, and then be like, okay, this is what I got from it, and this might be a why if you find the language and the space to like educate yourself on these things. Then you have a better understanding of yourself.
Well, we don't meaning make in isolation,
right?
And so I think it's also important to, and we use a mom going having to work a lot as an example, so not this is not a specific situation, but the individual person says like my trauma comes from. Or I have that particular trauma from not getting that kind of love, validation, emotional depth, etc. And I understand why. That's an individual trauma, right? But then you say like, well, it be like that. It be like that is just collective trauma, right?
I was about to say.
And I think it's important to name because that individual trauma is a particular kind of harm and hurt, and it deserves its own sunlight and response, etc. And then a related but different trauma is the collective trauma. It be like that because of systems and forces and structures that mean that so many mamas and daddies are not there to do that. Right. In the community people we talking that we're talking about are referring to. So it's like I started thinking about like, what does it mean to understand what that means for me individually? And then what does it mean to experience that also collectively because, quote, it be like that.
Yeah.
And how do we treat those? How do we respect those as related but two distinct and separate? Yeah. That means that not only are you experiencing that individual trauma, but you also are experiencing that at a familial level, at a community level, at a structural level.
That's why most young people are friends, right? They build pact based on survivor, right? Like, so you don't like, when you got outside, the first thing you share is like, yo, my mom, word, my mom too, right? Now it's a bomb. And then next thing you know, you got 4 or 5 people who mom or dad and they don't like this and they're, yo, bro, can I stay at your crib? You know what I'm saying? And now it becomes this unhealthy reliance on community that's all experiencing the same systematic trauma. Like, and we got to be clear, 'cause I think you laid it out plain. Yo, it's systematic abuse that we are all enduring. And now, back to where's that stress lie? Now the stress lies in unhealthy friendships. Whew. You don't even like it. You start to realize you and your friend don't got nothing in common.
Except your struggle.
Except your struggle. And then if you walk away, it's now survivor's guilt. It becomes so unhealthily layered that you actually lose sense of self. And you now don't even know why you're angry.
So now that brings me to a question. So what does a dysregulated nervous system actually look like for a Black man in 2020? Because you said it. How does community trauma layered with personal trauma? Like, how do we talk about that? What does that look like now?
I think that, and this is no slight to all of these podcasts that's out here, but you start to see like men and build platforms of speaking in this unhealthy, like the barbershop tour, right? And the intent of what they're trying to do is something positive, but they're not aware. They're not conscious. They don't have the tools and the language and the understanding to like have conversations. And when you lead in a conversation, you actually lead with your eye and not trying to tell the world what they should be doing. It's almost pervasive. I don't know.
I'll make it plain.
I'm trying to be different.
Like, you trying to be, I'm like, y'all been outside? Have y'all been on an airplane or on the sun? I mean, like, I think that, and we live, work, and serve in New York City, maybe a place where you're even more forced to share space and everything. But we live in a collective society, right? It's like, yo, the supermarket, the parking lot, anywhere people gotta like be in space together, they are going bananas. Like, and obviously now we're seeing a lot of it because people are filming it and putting it on social media. But like, and I think, you know, we have, if you think about the world and then of course our country, our communities since 2020, I mean, people think like, you know, we just jump, hop, skip right on over COVID, even though 1.5 million people just died. Gone. Just kids, like
kids are
more than all the wars combined.
Right.
Like, and we just was like, all right, so we ready to get back to work.
Yeah,
like, you know, like, so.
Can I go back outside? Can I go back to my favorite spot?
Right. You know, just no kind of like collective restorative healing, like none of that, right? And it just seems like everybody is on 10 and the environment outside is like, you walk out of the door kind of like, well, I got to be on 10 too. Man. So when you say what is, you know, dysregulation look like, you know, particularly for, you know, black men, young black men particularly, I'm like, that's where that's where I look to see all the kind of worst consequences, bad potential negative consequences of all of this like trauma that we are living in, but being conditioned to sort of pretend like doesn't exist, right? And for us and for our young men, that's just built on top of an already stigmatized environment.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And then a lack of access to that information, so on and so forth. So the beast is feeding itself insofar as, you know, I'm concerned that we're just getting more and more disconnected from the things that everybody needs to heal. But the last thing I'll say is shout out to the B.R.O Experience Foundation, but also just all the other people around the country that are also kind of recognizing that and saying like, hey, now is the time for us to really show up as community in this way. Not to rely on government, not to rely on extra, but like saying, okay, this is work that we finally need to do. And I see more community anchors, whether it's like faith leaders, whether it's brothers like yourself, whether it's athletic coaches, places where our young men exist, like saying like, okay, now is really the time to have this kind of conversation. It's not just about the basketball program, right? But now it's about digging into something deeper.
Human experience,
considering that. And I was gonna, I think that this regulation is so rampant and but it's the way that it's like it's served. Like to experience it is one way, but to have it like funneled to you is a whole nother thing. So like you bring up the barbershop talk and like a lot of these like manosphere red pill, like, you know, shut yourself down, come into this gym, like it's all about gains. It's like and especially black men, about just the way that everything about our lives is commodified and it is put on this way that we have to like obtain these like levels. Everything is about levels. Everything is about, are you doing this to get that? And like maybe other men experience it, sure. But so much of our love, our life is centered on that. Like we talked about, what is the price of being a provider? Like so much of it is that. And then I see this, and then I see our relationships and how they look like and how they're presented. And the dysregulation for me comes if you're not aware of this psyop that's happening, which I believe, I am a conspiracy theorist through and through. Do not follow me on Twitter if you don't want to hear about
red pill, blue pill, red pill, blue pill.
I got X-Files. Sixx Files. But I really do think a lot of this is psyops to like throw us off and disconnect us, like to what you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we got to understand that the most impressionable but not yet maturated mind is in the adolescent. So if we're going to use what Jason just said as far as COVID, we are talking about a generation of children who were going through trauma, potentially lost the person who was the abuser, right? Because of COVID. And now they're left with the guilt of their parents' death and their lived experience. I've worked with young men, and one of the reasons why we started the organization is because of the chaos that was happening in society when it came to youth not really being impacted by COVID, like physically, and they were able to run the streets. And if they already have disconnected relationships with their parents, they don't want to be home because now everybody home. I gotta be home with you every day. Like at one point it was like a 10-hour span when I didn't have to see you. Now I got to be with you, and you in the house and you sick. You know, so it's just like what we are seeing is the ramification of the dysregulation being festered. Like just imagine dirty, filthy water just sitting for months and no one is trying to clean it and filter it. And none of those things are happening. And now we live in a society where all the doors just open back. And everybody was excited because some of us was trapped physically. And then we run outside and we didn't deal with that level of trauma on top of the trauma systematically. So it's just, yeah, man, it's crazy. And in the midst of that, we were like going through a president that is just chaotic.
A maniac.
Yeah, man. So
a complete maniac.
No, unbrazenly.
We live in a society of unhealthy.
Yeah, it is.
People.
It is from top down.
Yeah, man.
You have to, you know, I was thinking about this morning. I was like, man, like you are privileged to be able to even consider being healthy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah. I mean, and that's a wild thing to say in 2026 that like
you got your fucking right mind. Like, that is a privilege nowadays. Because people not in their right mind. They're not in their right state of mind, man. Look at all these celebrities like doing things to compromise their characters and who they are. And that's a sickness, bro. Like, you might say, yeah, I'm doing it for the TV, but like the fact that you're able to do it and not subject yourself, like I can't fake and be nuts. I can't fake an argument. Like that takes a level of dysregulation that is far beyond what I've ever seen.
One of my new favorite interviews is Andre 3K talking about his understanding. Like he was like, he got famous and then he was like, this is unhealthy.
Yeah.
This is unhealthy and
not
unnatural.
Like playing flutes and shit. And I love, I love 3000, but that shit was so crazy for him that my man was like, he went back to the earth.
Yeah. He said, I want to disappear into the point where I can experience normalcy. And
but you know, for our young people, like so much of, you know, their experience is constructed in this like sort of micro community. So everybody's famous in that like way. And so there's this like pressure to perform and associated sort of trauma and stress of constantly comparing yourself to something that actually isn't necessarily real. And that happening at such a critical point in identity development.
Yes, man. Yes.
Because it's happening with like adults, you know. It's happening with it's happening with adults, and there is a, you know, anytime there's like a profit making money behind something, I'm looking sideways, and I'm like, you know, their attention is commodified,
causing chaos.
Yeah, and the more chaos and outrage and reaction that you can farm, you know, the more views you get, the more
engagement, eyeball tracking.
Right, and then like that, you know.
Look, I don't trust Zeus, Baddie Club, look, all of it. Look, join me on my Patreon and we'll talk about the continuous FBI.
I don't mean to go down over here, but it's like, it made me think of like J. Cole and Cameron, right? So I don't know if y'all know the story, but
go ahead. I saw a little bit about it, but I'm not familiar.
So they did the song on one of J. Cole's albums. I don't know. I forget the album. It was like right before the fall off.
Okay.
And they had the song was dope, but I guess in the midst of that, the business went left, and Cameron ended up suing J. Cole for whatever reason, and they didn't speak about it. Cameron was like, "Yo, you did that to me based on his experience." Cameron was like, "Yo, I'm not messing around with this," and hit him with a lawsuit. So like that was the thing. And then recently, I don't know, maybe a week ago, they must have made up, right? And now they take this conversation and then take it public. Mm-hmm. And Cameron is doing his talk with Flea because I listen to Cam. I like talk with Flea because I'm a hip hop head. So I like him going back and the nostalgia, the things that he talked about. But on this episode, J. Cole busts in his studio.
I saw a clip of that,
and I don't think the whole thing came out because I was watching clips as well. And now he like, "Yo, you gonna sue me?"
Yeah.
And I bring that up because as I'm watching the clips of them now having the conversation, the first thought in my mind is why? Why do we have to sensationalize the fact that you guys have to have this type of conversation? Like, it's clear that you already had that conversation. Now, I might be wrong, and J. Cole may have had the balls to walk up at Cam's studio while he was recording live like that, but I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that they had that conversation. And if I'm wrong, my question is, why are we human enough and regulated enough to we don't always have to put these chaotic things on public display? It's like, as men, we have to start learning, like having these private conversations and being intentional about where we make mistakes is critical. Because now, who are you doing it for? Are you sincere that you sued the man, or J. Cole, are you sincere about your apology? Or is it just a public spectacle, right? To get views and to now take this contentious behaviors and put it public. Like, that is that's dangerous. And I mean, that is light compared to all of the other things that we see. 50 Cent and Jim Jones, like all of these things, I think is very unhealthy because it breeds problems. Like, we are teaching people how to have issues with each other, and then we teaching them how to deal with those issues in mainstream media. I'm just tired of it.
As we should be. I think that the fatigue of watching, I think I see more, and again, you talk about the dysregulation. I think, and we talk about from a communal sense, I see more of us. And again, this is my thought, that you can manufacture some of these conditions.
Yeah, that's
what's happening all the time. And I just like our movement of making sure you see joy and positivity and brotherhood and connection and love is the fear that they fear the most. And whoever they is, who they are. But because all we see is the most destructive parts of us, and the anger, the arguments, all the negative parts of who we are, and gets highlighted before any of the positive. And that's the part about me that I struggle with, about like even trying to pay attention to things when it comes from a mainstream media's point of view. I like my alternative, independent situations, because I get to see things that resonate, that don't force me to always feel uncomfortable around my own people, thinking that, I see another black man and we make eye contact, we gonna have a nigga moment.
Yeah.
These are the things that you see constantly all the time.
I want to play devil's advocate a little bit.
J. Cole and Cam?
No, not specifically that, but just generally speaking. So I do get concerned a little bit about, especially when we talk about like media narratives, because right, there's a reality around the consequence of someone of that situation happening and it being J. Cole and Cameron and not just like two people on the street, right? It's going to proliferate because of who they are, because of the platform they have. So whether they have responsibility or not, right? The consequence or outcome when something like that happens is that people can take their cues from it. They can be influenced by it. But I also want Black people to be able to exist in their fullness, right? So then there's this counter to what you shared, Sixx, which is yeah, true. boxing on baddies or Zeus, like probably ain't the best message to that audience. And then it probably isn't the way that we want. We don't want the white gaze to like be able to manipulate like that and say like, well, white people are looking at it and we're only responding to the ways that white people look at us, right? Because you're never going, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a fool's errand too. So I always get kind of caught between like, you know, like let niggas be, like leave them alone. Like with also like this kind of, you know, and I grew up at a time when, you know, it was like, you know, pull your pants up, do this, you know, that kind of thing where it's like, how do we make sure we balance this? Like, it's not about the way that these other people like look at you or see you, because you can't change the prisms in their eyes, right? They need to. But it also is about sometimes because you only seen this slice of yourself reflected back, you start to believe that that's all that it is. So I don't know. To me, there's something in the middle, like,
Right.
Yeah, but I always kind of get caught up in like, how do you police those two boundaries and find a healthy way to make sure that people are like, as you are is as you are, but also like, let's not start to think that just because you have this narrow slice or vision into what you are, what you could potentially be, that becomes all you know as well.
But I think as and I hear what you're saying, but I guess my pushback would be is just like, as architects of people who are creating things, we have a responsibility to our audience and to the people that we are in front of to be intentional about what we're creating. And if that was art, right? Like, and they created they wanted to create a moment of tension in art, at least the people know that that's what they're going to see and they're going to experience. But if that is supposed to be reality, and you are setting up this moment for this clip when you already intentionally fixed the moment, then what's
real about it?
Yeah, what's real about it? It's phony. It's phony. Like you know, saying, and then it can bring so many different messaging to the most impressionable. Now we're talking about it as adult men, but somebody looking at that like, yo, I presume that and still be cool with them. You know, it's just like, nah, like, no, you can't. Like,
you cannot.
You sue somebody like it's off with your head, or you know, there's issues. Yeah, it's just and I get they thought that they were being conscious by, you know, having this live public conversation, but like people were really hurt. Like people were hurting the matter. Like, you know, so we didn't even deal with that. Now we sit across from each other in ego, and I think that's the detriment to you know, when people have platforms and they like, again, back to this dysregulation, man, we gotta do better. We have to.
I'm not gonna argue that.
Yeah.
But I will bring up this next thing that I think we've kind of been dancing on. And I think it's one of the most important talking about on the conversations I'm hearing a lot about when I am paying attention to what's going on in the ethos of the mainstream, and this idea of emotional intelligence and the lack thereof. And so the question that I've been like, I'm on the train. I'll give you the whole context of why I thought about this one, because I'm on the train and coming back, and I was just in Virginia. So I'm on a train back from Virginia, and I'm listening to these beautiful sisters have this conversation. And one sister says she's a therapist, and the other one, I think she works in IT or something like that. And I'm ear hustling, you know. And so I'm just listening to them talk, and they are going off about dating, why men ain't, you know, and just like, you can't trust it. They don't know what they feeling. They're manipulators. You gotta climb 10 walls just to bring that one. And I was sitting there and I was just like, you know, taking it with a grain of salt. And maybe they were talking extra lot because I was close. I don't know. But it brought me to this thought process of like, are we doing a good enough job of talking about emotional intelligence in our spaces that we exist in? And really, is emotional intelligence, is it a skill, not a trait?
Mm-hmm.
Where do we fall in that idea when it comes to emotional intelligence?
Well, I think it's important to start with the definition of
emotional intelligence.
I can do that. So there's 4 domains of emotional intelligence. There's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. Those are the 4 like if you are ever in a conversation with somebody and they like, you are not emotionally intelligent, ask them in which domain are you talking about that I am missing the mark?
Well, the domain represents the experience of where emotions show up. So just because we want to be clear and not like, so you wanna when you are navigating your relationship with self, you want to be aware. When you are navigating the relationship with society, you want to be aware of what your emotions are saying to you. And then when you are, I think it's self-management and whatever the 4th one is. So the domains are the spaces that we experience.
There you go.
And based on the experiences, we then have emotional responses. So the next part of that is the vocabulary of emotions, where people on a spectrum of emotional vocabulary, people only probably stay within the top 5 or 7, right? Like, so if you know anything about an emotional wheel, there's sectors of an emotional wheel where some emotional wheels have 5, some emotional wheels have 7 set emotions that we identify with because of our adolescence and we don't have the vocabulary. So sad, anger, happiness, joy, confusion, that's normally 5. And then sometimes it'll be like satisfaction and blah, blah, blah. And then there's layers to the will that allow you to have a bigger vocabulary so that way you can articulate yourself clearer than using anger. Because sometimes anger can be rooted in frustration. Sometimes your anger could be rooted in your sadness or your confusion, right? Like you ever got lost, right? And driving in the car, you may not start crying. Some people might start crying because they become sad, or some people might start banging the steering wheel because they pissed off. So being able to understand the will based on the domain that you're in gives you the ability to have emotional intelligence. So if I'm with my friends in society and one of my friends does something like to slight me or steals from me, I might be confused. I really might be confused on like, why would you do that to me? But it's showing up as anger because someone told me that no one's supposed to do that.
Right.
Like, so like that I think in my way of giving the terminology, that is how you have emotional intelligence. When I share with myself, because I understand vulnerability, I'm doing it unapologetic. Like I'm doing it in a way where I'm not compromised by what other people may think about my experience or how I emote to it. I'm doing it because I realize that my vulnerability gives me the power to share what someone told me I need to bury. Now, it will cost you if you don't have that level of understanding of how dynamic being vulnerable is. There's the ability to give unapologetic personal truth and share in a way that you are not compromised by other people's opinions about your experience. And that ebbs and flows, right? Like I think it's scenario-based or experience-based where people can exercise in those levels of vulnerability to that point. But it doesn't cost me anything. I think it costs me stuff when I don't share, to be honest. Because there's a detriment to what I may experience or what I don't get out of life when I'm not forthcoming, for me personally.
I think there can be a cost, or some of I perceive there to be a cost because Barry, you talked about earlier, the bonding that happens, and how that is born out of survival. So so many people's, so many men's networks are really survival networks, right? And so when you talk about those things that you're like, well, the only thing we got in common is our struggle, our trauma. It may be basketball or how many, people we didn't put down. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I like the word.
Some are trying to
people murdered together or adopted.
Like, then you start to do this work. Because I think Sixx, you also said, are you born with it or can you? And it's like, nah, right? Like you can do the work to become more emotionally intelligent, more emotionally aware, whatever. So you start to do this, right? You get to that point where you are ready to be vulnerable. You're doing that more. That's how you are showing up more. And I think, oftentimes that survival network can't respond to it, doesn't serve you anymore, and I experienced that with like male friends who, we have these conversations and especially maybe people that you meet in a later stage in life or a different stage in life. And then you got the people you grew up with and you're like, but I'm loyal. Like, we done been through some stuff together, yada, yada, yada. But it just starts to, there's this tension and like, that just, we just on a, and so I want to honor and acknowledge that may feel like a cost, like you're losing something like you. And that I think sometimes can be a place where people get stuck, where they're like, well, I don't want to sell out the homies. I'm doing this other shit now. But then, and then they making you kind of feel guilty for, you all on that like heel shit now and like whatever. And so you can kind of get caught in between these worlds. And I don't want to sort of act like that's not a thing.
No, it is. So I think, this is wild, but I never struggled with that.
Really?
Yeah. Like even it's a running joke between me and my friend, like my close friends that I grew up with, those who are still living, they be like, yo, you ain't shit as a friend. Like that's what they will tell me. And I'm like, nah, I just know how to put me first. I know how to self-preserve. I'm not gonna get I even do that with my family. Like I know how to when I see shit, I know how to like disconnect from it. And I'm okay enough that when you do call me and we do speak, I'm telling you why. Like my man LP, he'll call me all the time, like, yo, I put you on 5 months, bro. And it's a running joke, like I'm out here stealing the government's money and all this stuff. That's his way of trying to get back. But I'm like, yo, I'm not where you are. And I don't know where that came from. I often think about it. I don't know if it's just because I've always been like tunnel vision even from a kid. But yeah, I'm okay with not like, all right, I'm stepping off. And knowing, and I'm not saying that everybody has that. I don't know where that sense of self or how I became okay with that. But even my wife, she's like, yo, like you could just shift. She was like, how do you do that? It's something I can't explain, but it's because I think as a kid, I've been able to see people's habits. Like, and I'm like, I don't align with that, or I don't feel safe in this moment. So I'm gonna back off. I love you, but this ain't what I want to be a part of. And I would like not call no one, talk to you.
We got to do a whole section on. No. I mean, it's important because like I don't think people talk enough about how hard it is to choose yourself.
Yes,
because I think, there's this like idea, or it sounds like, well, choosing myself means it's going to feel good.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it will in the long run be the healthier, more sustainable option. It will, but like, like when you make that decision and then you do it, it's like, like it may upend a lot of stuff that you have come to define yourself around. So That's a interest. I mean, it's interesting that you got that, and like immediately that was your response. Like, I don't really have that, but you also said like I don't have a problem choosing myself. As soon as you said that, I was like, whoa, that is a word that we got to dig deeper into, because I think a lot of hurt is as a result of the fact that people not choosing themselves.
Yeah. You want to know something? Like in real time, I think what I'm processing is that I experienced death with my friends early. And I don't know, I got to sit with it. But what's coming up for me in real time is that I could distinctly remember saying to myself, what I have isn't forever. And it became like precious to me. Like to see one of my close friends, Joey, die of cancer. And we were like NRT, like 15, 16. I'm like, damn, Joey died. And then 2 weeks later, a close friend of mine, Johnny, died at the Thompson's Projects being shot. Right? Like, so in my mind, because I experienced death early, I'm like, and then you see people move on. I'm like, well, all like I have to make sure that I preserve this, because it ain't gonna be here forever. And maybe that's where I started to adopt the sense of I'm important. I mean something. So I'm not gonna be compromised by other people's imperfections. And I know that I have my own imperfections, so I'm gonna step up and do my thing, so that way I don't gotta be spilling stuff on you. But I became okay with even like bouncing from friendships. Like, yeah. And then another thing that come up too, I used to read a lot of books around generals. And it would always be like, the general is the one who would eat at the cafeteria table alone, because he already knew that he didn't want, he would be responsible for telling the stories of his soldiers' death, right? Like, so I kind of operate in that type of way. Like, I'm always like, yeah, I'm in general mode. That might not be healthy now that I'm processing it out in real time, right? Like, because it is experiences. So I need to think about that. And I appreciate this conversation because I don't have an issue with that shit. Like, and I don't have an issue telling the person, like, you move in a certain way that makes me uncomfortable. And I'm not gonna tell you not to move like that, but that's not where I'm at. So I'll see you in a more neutral setting. I told my mama that.
Yo.
Straight up. That's why I was like, yo, Pop, I hear you, but you gotta figure that out. I can't be responsible for that.
That's real. I will throw my little 6 cents in there where it's like,
it's liberating.
No, I think I'm fortunate. Like, I've watched friend groups change. I've had the same core friend since I was like 8, 9. And then all of us are 6 of us now. And they've been friends from 9 years old all the way up to now. We're all in our 30s, 40s. So like, and that's my core friend group. Like, we've seen everything from each other.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah. And but they're good men. And like,
I know it is.
They're righteous. And I think I've been fortunate for that. But I've always been the more curious one out of all my friends. So like, Sixx will go anywhere. They know that. Like, they know I'm the adventurer. And so my thing was to always go do some wild shit and then bring back the stories. And then everybody just have a good time. Like, yo, Sixx gonna do a side quest. That's what I do. And everybody had their role and we all lived in it. And so, but we all respected each other's individuality in that. And so like, I really do feel comfortable with that. Like, that core friendship always made me feel comfortable making new friends, because there's nobody else like me. I don't care. I got people who like me when I was listening to emo music in the hood, when I was skateboarding, like who I was always accepted to these like 6 people. And when
I want to say that I think that's limited. That's a limit. So another thing that's coming up is like, how I saying that we live in abundance and we only got one set of core friends.
I got more core friends. I think those are my longest friends.
Yeah, by virtue of the time that you were born.
Yeah.
But so what happens when you so I think that those distinctions have to be lifted, because I met Jason 6 years ago. We come from 2 different walks of life, but I consider Jason a core friend. Yeah. I just met you 2 years ago.
Right.
I consider you a core friend.
I would agree.
So it's like, I think maybe another thing, we have to start to live in expansion and abundance, because, and this is scientific, like even in your marriage, you need a village because you can't just solely lean only on your partner. Because then that what happens, you actually start to drain each other in your experiences. That's why your partner after a while be like, yo, nigga, go outside. Like, you ain't got nobody else to talk to, right? Because it becomes a dyad is not healthy over a expansion of life. So we gotta have triads and multiple partners in your life that are core to your existence. So
just tying it kind of back to this conversation about emotional intelligence, I think,
is that emotionally intelligent? One set of friends.
Not one set.
But some people might. Though.
Okay.
Like no best friends, no new friends.
Right. So like that's a very limiting, right? And I think that speaks to some kind of emotional dysregulation or lack of emotional awareness or intelligence in one or more of those domains. But I do think, you have like, you start to realize that different people in different groups, different communities that you are part of, belong to, contribute to, et cetera, like serve different needs. And, to have a group of friends, like Sixx mentioned, that you're able to, by virtue of how long you've been friends, y'all have watched each other grow. Like that's kind of a cool thing, kind of like, I get something from that's different than what I get from friends that I've made in adulthood through a particular kind of like work that we do, right? Because that feeds that and it's almost like I think about alchemy a lot and how, there's the sort of other side of the emotional intelligence coin, where you do all that stuff, right? And then you're sitting here wondering, it's not easy work. Like it has costs, so on and so forth. And then you do it and you're sitting here and you go like, well, what did I do it for? And it's like, oh, you flip the coin over and you're like, oh, so now I can like bring all of these things together in terms of how I design who I'm with, how I'm with, what communities I belong to, where, and then that coherence makes me feel like all of myself. So I just wanted to like bring it back to that thing, because there's a reason why we, like diving in the deep end on all this shit, and not just sort of saying like, okay, I don't got time for that. Let me like get up, go to work, do this. Because that can be an attractive choice because there's so much chaos, so it's like, wait a minute, I don't even want to jump in there. Like, what's the point? And I think, on the other side of that coin is like, oh, because now you are really designing this thing where like you're doing your life ain't doing you.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I wanted to make that distinction, because I would probably say the core friends that I have in my conscious state, the conscious Barry, the more emotionally regulated Barry, are the most healthy, right? Like, so I ain't going to my homies that was then when I was in survival mode, like, yo, guess what? This happened because now I'm getting toxicity.
But that's your story.
Yeah, absolutely.
You hate them niggas.
No. So I don't.
I'm joking.
But I'm clear that the capacity,
right? Yeah,
right. Like, so you gotta be clear. Like, you might have frat brothers, and the only thing y'all know each other is fucking drinking kegs and partying and knocking shit off, and now you are evolving, and some of them might be still frat brothers. Like, they might be in the frat stages of their lives. You need a core group of friends that's going to allow you to navigate the ground that you're in.
You really do.
Yeah,
and you don't
like the multiverse
you don't know it until you do that work to be like, whoa, who am I? Why am I? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
And then you can, and then you're like, and it's like, we do have that duty loyalty thing. It's like, it's embedded in us or whatever. And I think that when I was talking about the cost, like I was really thinking about how, whether it's right, wrong, or otherwise, we be twisting ourselves in knots to say no to the most harmful shit to, like we know it ain't good for, we know we overextended ourselves. We know that person don't deserve it. We know that situation don't deserve it, but we just like, and it's family. It's, it's just like, oh, I got this like, even like the hood period. Like, like these people ain't never done nothing for you. Yeah. They don't want to see you go anywhere, but you have a blind sense of duty just because like, and I just want to say that's just not an easy thing. I can see a young man sort of looking in the mirror going like, what am I supposed to do? Yeah.
No, absolutely. And this is the last point, not to believe, like you got us going, since you always get us with these last couple of questions to fire us up. But I just want to bring it back to something that you pointed out, Jason, earlier, back to like systematic, right, like oppression. We bend ourselves in knots for our relationships because we were torn apart.
Yeah.